Okay, and welcome to the Blue Bodge tour. We're going to take a look around Hyde Abbey and understand a bit of its history. And we're going to start here in the castle. This is the place where the Benedictine monks used to discipline the boys. If we look here on this bollard, this is where they would bend the boys over the bollard and then beat them 6 times till they cried. That's the way to treat boys back in the day, and it was not without results. They had the top grades in the 1932 examinations and the medieval baccalaureate. They were well renowned as having very high success rates. So people would send their boys here from right across the country, indeed from across the medieval world, in order to get them beaten to a pulp. Now, let's get out this way, because, interesting thing, of course, last year King Henry VIII triggered Brexit, and we've been discussing the consequences of Brexit for seems like the last century or so. One of the consequences is this public housing we see behind us. From saving the €350 million a week, which was being poured into the European Union, Henry has managed to put up these houses and settle all of the people who are in between the care and different problems, and they now have proper homes to go to. And so the people complain a lot, but actually the situation has markedly improved here in Wessex with regard to public housing following Henry's triggering of Article 50. But, and this is the but, there is also an unintended consequence, and that's namely the exiling of Catholics, of which I'm one. So I'm not actually meant to be here, and hopefully the police won't arrive, otherwise it could actually sort of go a little bit nasty for me. But swings and roundabouts, and there are ways to get around the system. Now, there's an interesting place over here on the banks of the River Itchen. Very romantic idea, the banks of the River Itchen, and this is a romantic space. This bench here, you can take a seat. This bench is known, locally at least, as the bench where Jane Austen had her first kiss. And as a result of that, young people, and some not so young as well, they come here, and if you kiss on this bench, it's reported, allegedly, that you'll have a long and successful romantic relationship. Personally speaking, I'm not so convinced. Jane Austen was more a successful writer than romantic, but maybe it's an excuse for young people to snog. Okay, let's carry on now and follow me up to the home, the first home where Winchester Football Club was born, came into being. Very interesting history here. And it's just up the hill. I'm going to take a look past King Alfred's place. Apparently King Alfred was called King Alfred the Great because he was the first King Alfred. So they said, he's arrived, great, and then the name stuck. So we're going into the church now, and yeah, here we are. This tree, this wonderful old tree, is recorded as being one of the first goalposts on the grounds of Winchester Football Club. And Winchester Football Club were renowned as one of the top teams of their day. They won the FA Cup in 1532 and the championship they did the double, and they held the championship in 53, 54. So of that period, they were really the Chelsea. And they had the top striker, Abbot Alsop. Abbot Alsop got 33 goals in the 53 season. He was literally unstoppable. And the abbey was also rich. It had a lot of gold and bones, which they were trading. And as a result of that, they could buy in players from other abbeys around the country. So they were really making money by training up the monks and then selling them off to other abbeys. It was a very productive time for football here in Winchester. And over here, this is interesting. We have more graves here. Under this grave, apparently, is the pelvis of Alfred, and under this one was discovered, this one here, was discovered his shin bones, and, well, apparently, number 7 over there have his entire rib cage, but they're not letting on about it, so they're waiting until the value of the rib cage goes up, and then they will declare and put it on the stock market. Apparently, the trading is outperforming oil in particular, but housing now and property market, since that has slumped. Medieval bones have become a very important commodity on the exchange. Okay, now, final thing I want to talk about is these stones. The stonework in the church here is very interesting because it's a type of collage. If you look up, the stones are not as regular as you would imagine they should be. That's because the stones were brought from different locations. And one of the main sources of the stones here was Stonehenge in Wiltshire. They dragged them such a long way. Well, that was because the Pope ordered the depaganization of England, and that resulted in the destruction of a lot of prehistoric treasures, and they were incorporated into the church. Ironically, though, it's not as simple as that, because the church has a ghost. It has a ghost, and the ghost is a druid. A druid comes into the church, particularly around solstices, and he shakes his stick, he bangs it, and he moans as a terrible dirge, and people have reportedly gone crazy listening to the angry druid, who's come maybe with the stones from Stonehenge to try and retrieve them, and as long as the stones remain broken up and part of this wall here, it seems the druid is likely to continue his dirge. Final thing I want to talk about and show you is down at the bottom of the hill here. So maybe we can take a shortcut through the churchyard. That would be a good idea. Back over the football pitch. Okay, great. Now, at the bottom of the hill behind me, where the powerful sun is shining, back at the bottom of the hill, that was a very, very large medieval car park. In the 1500s, Winchester Winchester had one of England's largest car parks, and not only was it a car park, but it was the MOT centre of its day. They didn't use the MOT exactly, but there was a king's stamp which would go on any cars which had the guild approval, and Winchester had some of the finest cartwrights in the country. So what we had was effectively a very large garage with as many as 70 men all working on carts and producing really top quality work, and a much larger car parking area where all of the wagons, the chariots would be left, and they could even have protected, because this was within the walls of the abbey, they could be protected here. There was essentially wardens, and this medieval car park, well, nowadays it's no longer used for that. It's become a kind of recreation spot, and this recreation spot is, I'm afraid, a place where the young people come to do things they shouldn't do. They will be dealing in drugs here and causing all sorts of civil unrest. So I'm afraid in some ways the society, its greatest days was possibly in the past rather than today. But with the police's work, I'm sure we'll crack this one together.